junior secondary school. And the government did say that there's going to be 15,000 for each student. So, of course, that has not yet been implemented. But Salome, now, do you think that will be sufficient for learners in school?
I wouldn't say yes or no. But I want to believe when they arrived at that 15,000, they must have looked at the really key issues to be handled to make this move. And if it may not be sufficient, I'm not saying it may not, if it will turn out that it's not sufficient, the government will still get a report. And we are hoping that the head teachers who have been tasked to do a clean job. If it will be a lot, again, the very government will have to reduce. Because all we are talking about is what is going to be offered. The books have already been released, so the teachers will not be telling us they're going to buy textbooks. Right. And we have other materials that will need to be used in the schools. So whoever came up with the 15, I know there is a group that was in Naivasha, they calculated and saw that 15,000 was sufficient at that particular time. But you know, we can never be stagnant and say it is sufficient or it's not, because the cost of life also goes high. So when that comes, there'll be a review and they will add or they will reduce, depending on what will be happening. Right. Thank you.
Right, Amunga, what are your thoughts on
the elephant in the house of CBC and junior high school, junior secondary school is funding. There is a course teachers have to undergo in the college called the economics of education. And in that course, we are taught about how expensive or cheap education can be. And during that course, the main thing is to calculate what is the cost of education. In a country like Kenya, actually the priority is never given to education in terms of costing. The 15,000 shillings being sent to junior high school, junior secondary school, is not just not enough, but it is far less than what is expected in a Commonwealth country like Kenya. When you do the survey of how much they spend in a secondary, the word is secondary. This is called junior secondary. The day school funding that we have been getting, free secondary school education, began by Mwai Kibaki. It was set at a figure of 26,000 per child. The capitation is 26,000 per child per year.
Right.
Now, that has never been enough, and it has never been increased. I've been a board chair of a school here in Nairobi High School for some years now. We get that 26,000. Actually, it's 23. They cut a lot from the ministry. What they send to your school may even be around 18. When you hear the word 15,000, that's not the money that will come to that school. A lot of that money, Madam Salome, with due respect, will end up in your offices as government bureaucrats. Most of it, you guys will know how to play with it in your offices and say, this one will buy books for the school, this one will go to medical cover. What may go to that school, and I'm telling you on this set, is far less than even 10,000. What will go to the school directly? Most of that money remains in the ministry. The ministry starts saying, we are also doing inspection. We are cutting from this money. We are also going to supply you with the books. That money will come from those books we are getting from that money. So at the end of the day, we are going to supervise sports in those schools. We are going to supervise exams in those schools. So the money again ends up with the same ministry. What goes to the school is far less, and they tell you, just go and pay the watchman maybe, and you know, pay if there is anything, repairs in the school. That's what will send to the head teacher. And that money has never been enough for two reasons. Teachers are not there. Junior secondary school, the government has said it will post only one teacher. The number of subjects in a junior secondary school, and you have seen the timetable, are 12 subjects. Actually, there are 14 when you add the special subjects like music or French or art and craft. And one teacher, a high school teacher, cannot teach 14 subjects. It's not possible. I was trained as a high school teacher. I'm only trained in 2 subjects, Kiswahili and history. Now, if you tell me to teach maths or you tell me to teach English, I'm done, I cannot do it. So already government knows that those schools will have to employ teachers on board of management. Pesa itatoka wapi? Madam Salome, that money is not enough. Go tell your people in your offices that your government is not giving us enough money.
No.
And of course, yes, respond to it.
Madam Nelima, let me tell Mr. Amunga this. Why is he crossing a bridge he has not reached? When the task force sat in Naivasha and calculated the issue of 15,000 shillings, they must have looked at all those issues of sports, all those issues of supervision and all that. It was not just done blanketly, you are giving 15,000. It was a calculation. Economists sat down and saw it. We may not give our junior secondary cakes and chips and all and burgers, but we are starting somewhere.
Right.
Whereby, you know, they have not gone to the secondary school where you are talking about. Yes. They are still in their former schools, and we are going to make use of what we have because we already found ourselves in this situation. Fine. And we're not going to let this boat sink. We're going to make sure that our children have to move and they have to learn. And all we are talking about is the quality and sustainable education. And if we can attain that, we amidst the hitches, and we are going to have learning points, then I can tell you the next cohort of junior secondary may start eating maybe butter. Then the next one will start eating good.
It'll get better.
Yeah, it will get better.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know, junior secondary school is not just school without the facilities, without the labs. Secondary school must have a lab because they're going to teach biology, they're going to teach chemistry, they're going to teach physics. So whether the school is domiciled in the primary as you are putting it, that school is not going to be a primary school. That is a secondary school.
So it needs a proper infrastructure.
We want the infrastructure there. We want to see a lab. I saw the minister yesterday at the Nairobi Primary School, and I thought the minister will take us to a lab at Nairobi. Nairobi Primary School is one of the elite schools under her and others here in Nairobi County. But I want to tell you, who can go to Nairobi Primary School? There's no lab. Hakuna lab ya home science, hakuna lab ya physics, hakuna lab ya chem, hakuna lab ya bio. Those are the things that took me to high school. When I went to Form 1 in high school, Madam Salome, the thing that made me happy was when I saw a lab. I saw a Bunsen burner. I saw a beaker. I saw a microscope.
Right.
Tell me if in Shibinga or Mushikongolo Primary, where I come from, when will they first see a microscope?
I like that. And that's the notion you're trying to get off from. We cannot have everything. Amunga, even when you started your own house, you did not have everything. But you had some things, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, the CEs may not have taken you to a lab in Nairobi Primary. But in a week's time, you'll find there is a lab there. And it has been equipped. And we may not have the science, chemistry, physics laboratory the way you want everything in place. Right. But we may have rooms that will start off from there. We are starting with our own shortfalls, but I can tell you we'll shoot high and get over.
Right. Salome, we're still talking about, it's a time when some areas in the country, some marginalized areas in the country still don't have even proper classrooms. So, and now we're talking about even improving the infrastructure in schools so that you can accommodate grade 7. So then what happens to those people who barely have classrooms and study under trees?
I want to believe one thing that has never been clear to many people is CDF money has the development component. And I know the MPs of those areas are not sleeping because they know those are their voters. They need those classrooms. So there must be something happening. It's not the way it was years back. There is an improvement, although on a slow pace, but there is an improvement. And as this CBC takes off and the reality comes, you will see classes come up from partners, from CDF, from parents in that community, because remember, even the parents were, the communities were even given leeway whereby they can contribute sand, contribute stones, bring labor, and classes come up. We shall be there. We may not be 100% there. I'm not blaming those places. We may not be there, but we will be there soon.
Okay, and as we conclude, then critics argue that for the only way to improve our education is if we're talking about free education, then it's free across the board, not just in the public schools, but in the private schools as well, because there will always be a division. If you say you can pay if you want, you can pay. If you can't afford, don't pay. If you can afford, continue paying. So the standard of education, for it to be across the divide, for it to be seamless and to be the same.
You are talking about equity in education. And that is why our CBC has messed us completely. The equity, to make us equal. There's not, I used to hear that somebody used to say when I was growing up that education is an equalizer. Education makes us equal. That was those days. It is not that. And especially with CBC, it will not be there. Because the truth of the matter, as Madam puts it, she expects that the governor or, I don't know, the MP for Tana River will use CDF money to build a lab. He won't. We saw the other day a report came out from the control of budget saying that even that money that goes for CDF, a lot of it is not reaching the schools. But just to make your point, equity in education is actually supposed to be the most ideal situation. The SG4, the United Nations rules, were that education should equalize, whether it's a private child or a public. No, there's nothing like a private child and a public child. All our children, they have rights. They must get quality education. Quality education, Madam Salome and dear Kenyans, is made up of three things. Quality tools. Tools, the choka, the desks, the books, the textbooks, those are the tools. Quality teachers, quality well-paid teachers. I'm an art person, so I talk about well-paid. If you don't have a teacher who is not well-paid, like the teachers in Nairobi, most of them are not well-paid who are under the county government. Pay them well. You will see quality results. Right. And then quality environment. Madam Salome, quality environment, I'm talking about the sanitation, the toilets that children are using, whatever, everything that goes, the green, the field, the learning environment. I want to say this. CBC has failed in all those three, especially in the marginalized areas in this country. When we are in Nairobi here, we see things looking so nice. We may see the minister visit a school, but the truth of the matter is go to places far in Turkana. Go to Baringo. I worked in Baringo. I know what I'm talking about. Go to Lamu. I saw teachers being airlifted the other day to go and teach because there are terrorists in Boni Forest around there. You will discover that some of these things we talk here on TV are just for us here. The truth of the matter, go out there. There is nothing like CBC in class. There is nothing like CBC going on. Wale walimu wako tu pale, hawajui hata nini inaendelea. And Madam Salome, I'm sorry to announce to you this and your government, we as teachers are not even trained properly to teach this thing. We are not aware what CBC is all about.
So if the teachers are not well informed,
it's Amunga who is not well trained. The issue here is trainings are going on and they will go on. You can never be trained in one session and learn about everything. CBC. You will have to agree, Mr. Amunga. Yes, there are some hitches, but we are going to overcome them. Number two, when you talk about the MP in wherever not constructing a lab, do you know that there is public participation? And whereby if the public knows what they need, they're the ones who are supposed to tell the MP, this time our money, we need this to be done. And that's what you are saying. If you teachers, when you call your parents, the parents to a school meeting, and you want to dictate and say, sisi tunataka a TV room or what, and yet you don't have a lab, I want us to think, and I want us to go and benchmark. How did Alliance start? Mpaka ikafika where it is. And how did Kenya High start ikafika where it is? What can we borrow? You know, they also started from somewhere. They were never perfect. Could it be that some of these people we are giving our monies to run the schools, they make wrong decisions?
And minister officials and government bureaucrats.
I've said these people we are giving our money to run schools, and no, it's not only the head teacher.
Yes.
We have very many people running the school. There are very many stakeholders. Are they making wrong decisions? Could we benchmark from these schools? Now you're telling me about private schools. He said that the private schools are well prepared. What is this? They are well prepared just because they have uniform and textbooks and a few teachers there who are standing there, and you're saying you've not been trained. Who has trained the private school teachers in CBC? My friend, change is a process. Let us agree that we'll have thorns, they will prick us, but we'll remove the thorns and move along until we heal our wounds and get to where we are supposed to be. And we are running the ship. We are not going to allow it sink. Nobody is going to sink. We are going to all sail and get out.
She's saying the train left the station. Yeah. So people like me cannot stop the train. She's right. The only problem is that the train has no driver. The driver is a teacher. A teacher like me, I'm the driver of driving the CBC. If you don't retool me, if you don't retrain me properly, and the CBC is not just training me for taking me to take mandazi in some place and then you say you have trained me. CBC, competence-based curriculum, is not the lecture method that we used to do when we were in school ourselves. It is now a matter of like a coach of Arsenal. I support Arsenal.